Hospitals across the southeast of England have begun cancelling non-urgent operations, with some struggling to cope with double the number of COVID patients they had in the spring. It comes as government sources confirmed tonight that there's a concern about the new variant of COVID-19, amid fears it could be making the virus more infectious and harder to contain. Today, the Prime Minister said he was hoping to avoid a third national lockdown in England, but acknowledged that rates of infection had increased very much over recent weeks. New data suggests the UK's R number, or reproduction rate of coronavirus, is on the rise again. Last week it was thought to be between 0.9 and 1. Is now estimated to be between 1.1 and 1.2. Anything above 1 means that the virus is growing. Here's our health editor, Hupin. Routine operations were going ahead at this hospital in the south of England today, but increasingly NHS managers across the system are having to consider postponements. More COVID patients are coming in, and it's a challenge to find enough beds, and thus causing problems in now at a really dangerous point where we could tip into finding it incredibly difficult to manage. Now we've got crowded departments with COVID at the additional burden, which is a really scary and challenging place to be. And you can see this as we're increasingly getting ambulances queuing outside the departments. One COVID patient at this hospital has made a plea for families to think very hard before traveling at Christmas. He thinks his teenage sons have unwittingly passed on the virus. If you saw the look on my son's face when I was fighting for my breath, you would not want to send these children out of the countries to see their family. The Prime Minister, on a visit to the Northwest, did not rule out the possibility of England following Northern Ireland and Wales into post-Christmas lockdown. Obviously, we're hoping very much that we'll be able to avoid anything like that, but the reality is that the rates of infection have increased very much in the last few weeks. Here, where I am in the Northwest, in Bolton, they've actually done a fantastic job in bringing it down. The data shows that case numbers are rising in most but not all parts of the UK. The latest surveys of community infections by the Office for National Statistics suggests that in England, 1 in 95 people have the virus last week, with an increase in case rates notably in London, the South East, the East and the East Midlands. There were declines in other areas. In Wales, with 1 in 90, and Scotland with 1 in 100. There were also increases in Northern Ireland. 1 in 215 had the virus, with case rates no longer decreasing. Inevitably, some of those infected will become seriously ill and need hospital treatment and will puts pressure on NHS frontline. They have been warning up today about the impact on staff. People from the first side are still very traumatized and fatigued, not only from physical tiredness but from the psychological impact of dealing with COVID and working in a very different ways to usual. Now we're looking down the barrels of what looks like a third wave, so we're very concerned, and the impact of 5 days over Christmas is something we are very concerned about. Many hospitals across the southeast are under increasing strains. NHS leader in Kent say they cancel some non-urgent operations because of the increase in COVID patient numbers, and as in other areas, they need to be ready for a possible surge into the new year. The latest government figures on coronavirus show another rise in infections. There were 28,507 new cases in the latest 24 hours period. The average number of new cases reported per day in the last week is 23,959. The number of people being admitted to hospital is rising to 1,707 on average each day between now and last Sunday. 489 deaths were reported for the last 24 hours, and that's people who died within 28 days of positive COVID-19 tests on average in the past week. There were 434 deaths per day. The total number of UK deaths is now 66,541. Well, Hugh is here now. Tell us more about the concerns that we're learning about tonight that are surrounding this new variant of COVID-19. Well, Sophie, we learned on Monday about this new variant Matt Hancock, the Health Secretary for England, announcing it in the House of Commons and saying it might be a factor in the speed of transmission of the virus, particularly in the southeast of England, that it wasn't clear at that stage. Now what's emerged tonight is that there are still concerns about it, possibly growing concerns about whether it's a factor in how fast the virus is spreading, though it has to be said that scientists, Public Health England are still looking at the science behind it to know whether it really is a matter of concern or just another mutation which should be expected. But clearly there are worries about the state of the NHS in all parts of the UK. In the southeast of England, we have been hearing some hospitals postponing routine work. Now the same in South Wales, one health board announcing it was stopping some non-urgent work and crucially moving staff into the front line to deal with COVID patients in these hospitals. Now you get this sort of thing sometimes in January in the winter when you got a cold snap and you got a flu. Things have to be postponed because of frontline pressures. But it's very unusual to get this at this stage in the middle of December when there's any flu or cold weather. So the worries is what happens after Christmas with more mixing of household, more cases, and a lot more pressure into January, just when the NHS is more busy. Thank you.